Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Thibodeaux, and I would like to talk to you today about the minor prophet book of Hosea. Please excuse my voice. I am a little sick, and some of these names on the slides are kind of hard for me to read, but bear with me. And yeah, let's get down to it. So, who is Hosea, and what is the book of Hosea? Well, Hosea is the longest and oldest book of the 12 minor prophets. The prophecies of Hosea took place around 785 to 745 BCE, or in the 8th century. The name Hosea means that the Lord saves, which right there we can kind of see the redemption side of the story just in the name. The book of Hosea is a love story. We could say that right off the bat. It's gritty and provocative, but it reveals the reality of a relationship with only one side fulfilling its vows. And the primary purpose of this story is to serve as a representation of the relationship between God and the nation of Israel. This is symbolized through the prophet's life in a marriage between a faithful spouse and an unfaithful one. Hey, let's do a general overview of the book of Hosea. And in order to understand Hosea's position and role, let's talk about prophets. So, prophets in the Jewish religion were God's representatives. Essentially, they were his messengers. They heard from God. They spoke his words to guide and correct the people. And they often used their own life events to illustrate spiritual truths that God was teaching his people. Traditionally, the author of the book is considered to be Hosea himself, though there are some criticisms and debate that do exist. Hosea's ministry occurred during the reign of King Jeroboam II. It was in the northern part of Israel where Samaria was the capital, and that's because the 12 tribes of Israel had split. They kind of had a civil war after the reign of King Solomon, which was David's son. They had split and divided the kingdom into two, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. Hosea's prophecies span around these reigns, and in the southern kingdom there was kings Uzzah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. And please forgive me, I probably butchered some of those names. But while those kings were going on, King Jeroboam II was going on in the northern kingdom of Israel, and that's where Hosea was. Though Israel was prosperous during this time, the king and people engaged in wicked behavior, including neglecting the poor and worshiping idols. And so they began to pick up the evil practices of the surrounding nations. They even worshipped the Canaanite god of Baal, even having sex with some of the servants in his temple. God instructed Hosea to marry this adulterous woman, Gomer. Now, we don't know if some say adulteress, some say prostitute. We don't know if she was in prostitution before, but there's a couple clues we can look at that shows that she was adulterous after they were married. So Gomer represented Israel, who had been unfaithful by worshiping false gods, while Hosea symbolized God's unwavering faithfulness. The book alternates between using the marriage example and prophetic declarations to warn Israel of judgment for their sins while offering hope through God's love and grace. The book of Hosea's theme and theological issues. The central theme of Hosea is God's immense love and faithfulness, despite Israel's sin and unfaithfulness, particularly in their worship of other gods. They forgot about God in all their prosperity. Though Israel's sins deserved judgment and they broke their covenant with God, Hosea's life illustrates God's persistent grace. This is seen even through the names of Hosea's children. The first child, Jezreel, meaning God plants, reflects both Israel's history and Hosea's own son. The second, and I might butcher some of these names, so please forgive me, Lo Ruhamah, meaning not loved or not pitied. And the third, Lo Ami, meaning not my people, not my kin. This text suggests that the children from the second and third children were from Gomer's infidelity and not truly Hosea's. Despite this, God calls Hosea to buy Gomer back from prostitution, illustrating his desire to redeem Israel. God's love is further described in Hosea 11:1, where he is compared to a father raising his beloved child, teaching it to walk. in life. Though he hates sin and is just in judgment, his love and grace offers hope and restoration. This promise is reflected in Hosea 2:23, where God proclaims that the not loved will be my loved, and those called not my people will once again be his people, if they return to him and sow righteousness instead of wickedness. Relevance to the Israelite religion and people. The book of Hosea reminds the Israelites of their past, particularly their covenant with God after he led them out of Egypt. Hosea highlights how God has been the only faithful participant in this two-way covenant. This portrays God's character, his love, his faithfulness, and his grace, alongside his justness for addressing sin. Conversely, it reveals Israel's unfaithfulness, greed, and idolatry, to the point of worshiping at shrines and neglecting their priestly roles and obligations to the needy. It also goes to reference Jacob, which we later called Israel, and his brother Esau, who Jacob would be the father of the Israelites, and Esau would be the father of the Edomites. And at the time, they had a conflict. So this would have resonated with his original audience. The book of Hosea's relationship to literary written around the same time. So its influence, Hosea's influence, reaches far beyond its time, as both Jesus and early Christians like Paul referenced it in the New Testament. Prophets like Amos, Micah, and Isaiah were active around the same time, and you can see that they shared similar prophetic purposes, often using their lives as symbolic acts to convey God's message. We see ancient artifacts like the Black Obelisk, which was maybe around 827 BC, as an Akkadian monument. This non-Jewish monument mentions Israelite kings like King Jehu and Ahab, which was from the line of David. Also, Ugaritic texts from the same era also explore themes of love and judgment. But Hosea's book is different because it uniquely presents this through the intimate lens of marriage. No other deity did that. No other deity compared itself to a father or a husband to the people. Summary of Hosea. The book of Hosea tells the story of God's covenant relationship with Israel, primarily using the prophet's marriage to Gomer, the adulterous woman, as a symbolic narrative. Despite Israel's continual unfaithfulness and sin, God's love and grace shine through with his pursuit to love her again, as Hosea does for Gomer, in his attempt to buy her back, despite her to keep running back to these promiscuous ways. The book demonstrates that even though God's justice demands judgment for sin, his ultimate desire is redemption and restoration. This message finds its fulfillment in the Messianic Jesus, who completes the prophecy and the promises revealed in Hosea to continue on the line of David, to make a kingdom that is everlasting. We can find this hope in Jesus, and we see the prophecy fulfilled. So this book is very, very important as it points us to Jesus. It points us back into a right relationship with God, where we remember our vows and we remember our commitments. Thank you very much. Until next time.